You are golden, you are good enough, like your fire from within. You're inspired, you inspire us, it's gonna be all good again.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Roar Indie Author Series. I'm your host, Brianna, and I'm here with Eugenia. Oh, I did it! Did I do it right?
Close enough, Eugenia.
I knew I was going to do that wrong, and that's why in my head. Anyway, I'm here with Eugenia, and she's going to tell us all about her book based on the Chinese New Year and Lunar New Year and telling us all the fun things. So thank you so much, Eugenia, for being here and sharing your time and your story with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I know. So I want to know, what inspired you to be an author?
Well, I've always surrounded myself with books. I don't know if you can see or not. But then when my son was born, Brandon, and actually as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I started buying children's books. Lots and lots and lots of children's books. But, there was one type of book that I was always looking for and I could never find. And that was storybooks that had a little bit of Chinese culture and a little bit of Chinese language in the story. Written in English, because my Chinese is not that great. I'm not perfectly fluent. I can't really read that well. So I wanted the story to be in English with just a little bit of Chinese language and culture in them. And I just couldn't find them. And so when my son got a little bit older, maybe around 2 or 3 years old, we used to just always make up stories at bedtime. And I just started writing them down. So I started making up stories, writing stories for him. Never, ever thought I would publish or share them with the world or anybody, just for him. But, I was still looking for these kind of books, still couldn't find them. Years have passed. And then, sorry, my dog is whining. Give him something.
Okay.
A couple of years have passed, still couldn't find any of these books. I sent some stories to my sisters who had kids around Brandon's age, and they loved the stories. And my sister was like, maybe you should publish. I thought they were joking, and I laughed at them. I'm like, nobody's want to read my little stories about Brandon. So kind of forgot about it. A few more years passed, still didn't have these kind of books, still couldn't find these kind of books. So I just went for it, and now I'm an author.
I love it though, because that resonates with me too. When I found out I was pregnant, I wrote my story, and I was just like, lots of social justice issues that have happened in our recent history, very upsetting things are happening in certain cultures. And I just kind of looked around and I was like, what kind of world do I want for my son? And what do I want him to see as quote unquote normal, right? I want him to see that everything is, nuanced and everybody's different. And, and I want him to have, the Chinese New Year book, and so that we can learn and understand and know that just because something is different, that's all it is. It's not right or wrong. It's just different. And us engaging with each other and learning about each other's histories and cultures and backgrounds is a beautiful thing, Yes. So I love that. I love that your son is your inspiration, because my son is mine. So that's awesome. So can you tell us what book is part of the Roar series?
So these two books, Brandon Goes to Beijing and Brandon Goes to Hong Kong. So these are chapter books, because, I've noticed that there are lots of picture books out there, and within the past few years, there have been more picture books with Asian characters in them, but there haven't been that many for the older elementary age kids. And so when I was speaking with Penny at Roar, she's like, yeah, chapter books would be great. So chapter books for older elementary school kids.
I love it. So what is that, 9, 10, 11-ish kind of thing?
I would say 2nd grade to 5th grade.
Perfect. Yeah.
Maybe even 6th grade. Yeah.
Depending. And there's another work that you've done too, right? About the Chinese New Year, correct?
Yeah. So this is my newest book, celebrating Chinese New Year. And, we're still, Chinese New Year was Sunday, the January 22nd, but we celebrate for 15 days. So the celebrations are still going on until February 5th.
So I did not know that. When you told me that the other day, I was like, here I am. I'm learning something. This is amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience and just culturally, what is Chinese New Year versus Lunar New Year, for example?
Well, Lunar New Year is all encompassing. It encompasses the different New Year celebrations in other Asian countries. So Chinese New Year is specific to China because every country celebrates a little bit differently.
Right. That's what I thought. But
That's
I just
a short
wanted
answer.
to, no, I love that because I think I told you this before. Like my son has a book and it goes through all the different, like South Korea versus China versus Vietnam and how Lunar New Year looks in those cultures. So I think sometimes is in Western culture, we use the terms interchangeably, but like lunar is like the bigger one, like the blanket for all the different
Right.
celebrations, the New Year celebrations in Asian cultures. So I just wanted to kind of like highlight that difference so that when, because Chinese New Year, if you're Chinese, you celebrate that. But if you're Vietnamese, I think it's called Tet or something.
Right.
You celebrate Tet. And just to have that distinction, because I think, it is different depending on where you are. So let's just acknowledge that and, learn something, right? Something new and exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome.
What does it mean for you to be part of ROAR and something like the Golden Ticket to Literacy?
Oh my gosh, it's great because I can reach a whole new audience. I mean, being an author, the easiest thing is writing the story, writing the book. But then the book is out and you want to share it with the world, but how do you get it out to people? So with ROAR and having the books out in the vending machines and having all these kids be able to see it, it's so wonderful because we're reaching a whole new audience. And kids, I mean, that's who we're writing for. So it's just so great. Very exciting.
What advice would you have for an aspiring writer?
Write about something you love, something that's meaningful to you, because not everyone's going to love your book. There's no book that's universally loved. But if it's something that comes from your heart, something that has meaning to you, and it reaches and touches other people, that's everything.
Oh, I love that. Now, where can parents, educators, students, where can they find out more about you and your books?
Well, I have to print it out for you. So my website has all the information. It's eugeniachu.com.
Beautiful.
And then also there's a link tree that has all of my social media accounts there. So it's linktree.eugeniachu.com. So it just makes it easier all in one place. So I'm not going to list out my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, everything else, YouTube. So it's just go there and all my links are there.
So eugeniachu.com. But I want to share this before you go because I think I told you, like my son, where's my screenshots at? He's in preschool and they're learning about different cultures. And I told you he's obsessed with
Chinese New Year.
Chinese New Year. And you probably can't see it in here, but he is working on the Chinese characters. So cute. And that popped through this morning because they send updates or whatever. And I was like, oh, I gotta screenshot that so that Eugenia can see it.
So yeah, it's on my website too. So feel free to print out the worksheets and color sheets and all that. So there are a couple of Chinese characters if he wants to learn how to write numbers. It's on my website too.
Oh, that is super cool. See, I would not have known that if you didn't tell me. That's Eugenia, is there anything else that you'd like to share, we need to know, or?
Well, I also, my very first book, the one that I sent to my sisters, and they're like, oh, yeah. Brandon makes jiaozi, which are Chinese dumplings. And this story, my sister actually was my illustrator for my very first book. She didn't want to do the other ones. It was too much work, but she did the first one. So it was a really fun collaboration with her because she knows the stories. Whenever my mom comes to visit, we always make jiaozi or Chinese dumplings. And that was Brandon's very, very, very favorite thing to do. And we used to talk about it at nighttime before we go to bed when she was visiting. And so that's why I wrote that first book. And it's a fun book. But again, I really, very first book, didn't know what I was doing at all.
Preach into the choir. I totally understand that.
Sometimes, but we learn. There's so much to learn.
Yeah, it's so nuanced. Well, Eugenia, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being part of ROAR, and I look forward to seeing your new works in the future.
Thanks. I can't wait to check out your too.